Let's do some more work with doing math with functions. So today we're going to do a program and we're going to use two functions. And what we're going to do is we're going to write a little program that has to do with the Pythagorean theorem, and we're going to see how that works. So we're going to use a function called getSide. And the purpose of this function is to get one of the two legs of the triangle. So length equals float input, enter the length of a side. And remember, I like the spaces after the colon. We had to use float because it's a floating point number. You might say, well, why not just put it in the main part of the program? The reason this is handy is there's a thing called error checking that we're probably not going to get to, but it's really important. If we put it in a function, we can write a specific function and make sure the person enters a number to make sure they don't enter something that's going to kill the program and cause it to crash. So as I said, and that is in your packet. You'll see I have a get number function that works that way, and we probably will not get to it here in this lesson, but that's okay. It's still better to put it in a function. Now remember, if you just do this, it'll just sit there forever. We have to get that length out of the function. We have to return the length. And then let's define Pythagoras. For Pythagorean theorem, you have to send in two sides. Let's call them x and y. You could call them a and b, whatever. We'll just call them x and y for right now. Now the hypotenuse, let's call it hype for right now, is the square root of x squared plus the square root, or the whole thing's under the square root of y squared. Now we're going to need something here that we didn't do yet. We need something from the math function. So we could say from math, import everything, or from math, import square root. Why don't we just do that? We only need the square root. Why import the whole math module? It's kind of weird that square root isn't a normal function or standard function in standard Python. I really think in a way it should be, but they have it in the math module. So we have to do what they tell us. And let's return the hypotenuse. Now, we have two functions, and now we're down into the main part of the program. This program calculates hypotenuse of a right triangle. And hopefully we've all had geometry and understand that. Here's where it's really nice. Side 1 equals get side. Side 2 equals get side. It's also very readable for the user. A user reading this would say, oh, it's going to get the side from somehow. We kind of hide the float input thing up here. We only have to type it once. And hypotenuse equals the Pythagoras. That's the function. The function's called Pythagoras. We need to send side 1 and side 2 up there. Side 1 will go into x. Side 2 will go into y. And then we can just do a little print. Now the /new /n just means print a new line. It's kind of like the tab thing where it's really easy to get your new line. The hypotenuse is, comma, oops, I better end the parentheses, hypotenuse. I better spell it right. Now you see the main part of the program is actually quite short. All the math, all the input is hidden up in the function. And that's a really good way to do it. It's a really good way to program. So let's see, we'll do a 3, 4, 5 triangle. Oops, Pythagoras is not defined. Okay, so I spelled something wrong. Oh, it's an AS and not a US. You just saw me make a mistake. Oh well. But what's important is I caught it. And that should be true for you too. Before you turn into a program to a teacher, me, or anybody else, you should run it first. I can't tell you how many times people send me code and they never ran it. And then the first time I run it, it crashes and dies. A lot of times it's simple stuff that they really should have caught. So you need to check it. None of us are perfect programmers. Or if I run it again, I could do 1, 1. I should get it like 1.4. And I do. So do the debugging. You saw me even make a few mistakes. Now, a good question is, well, can we get more than one value from a function? And the answer is yes. So let me clean things up here a little bit, and we'll do this. So let's see. I don't need the square root in this new function, in this new program. Now, instead of get side, I'm going to do get a number. So float input, enter a number. Just kind of making it kind of generic. We'll call it num for number instead of length. So we've got a nice, and you could use that function now for any program. Now what do we want to do with it? We want to do some calculations. So we'll call this calc. We're going to take x and we're going to take y as arguments or parameters. And we're going to return two values. And in fact, we don't even need to define another variable. We could say return x plus y, comma x minus y. So let's see what we're going to do. The program does two calculations. And let's see what we want to do. Number 1 equals get num. Number 2 equals get num. Now let's see. The sum and the difference. I'm going to define two variables there. I just call them S and D. You could call them summation or difference. Diff. I don't know if you can use sum because I think that's a reserved word. But we're going to say do this calculation. Send number 1 up into x. Send number 2 up into y. And you have to put both in. Because this has two parameters, you must send in two parameters. And everything else is just printing. So we'll do a new line. The sum of the two is S. And the difference of the two is D. And if I didn't make any typing errors like I did in the previous one, we're going to have no problems. So 3 and 4 should return 7 and negative 1. And it did. So again, we can send two numbers into the function, and we can return two numbers. But if you want to return two numbers, you have to have two variables to accept